Hey, welcome to the next video. In this video, I will show you how to execute an action. So after the manager has planned an action, the crew should of course execute this action at the right moment. You can see all the actions you are related to right here on the dashboard in a list. You can see the code, the P stands for project and the A stands for action. Then you have the status, where TD stands for to do, C stands for completed, D stands for draft, and so on. After that, we have the name of the project, then the start date, then the due date, and in the right column we have our actions. With the View button, you can see a quick overview of the action details. With the pen icon, you can edit the action, and with the Execute button, you can execute an action. In the menu, you can also click on the projects and then go to Actions. Here you will get a list of all actions you are related to, and at the top you have some filters that make it easier to keep an overview of your actions. You can filter on pilots, drones, projects, and date range. You also have the View, Edit, and Execute options here. At the top you have three buttons. Let's go to the Action board. Here you get a nice and structured overview of all your actions divided into the different statuses an action can have. You can simply drag and drop an action into different columns. In this view, it is particularly handy that you get a short description for each action. Let's execute the Flight to Antenna 1 action. First, drag and drop it to the ongoing column and then click the Execute button. We now go to an overview screen of the execution stage of an action. On the left, you can see all the checklists that are linked to this action. Remember how you could link certain checklists to action types? Here is where those checklists appear after selecting the action type. You can also see the status of the checklist so that a manager can see if his or her crew has executed the checklist. You can start executing a checklist just by clicking Execute. On the right side, we have the weather pop-up with information per hour. We have the address in the top right corner for the weather, then the date, the sunrise and sunset, the wind and wind bursts, the temperature, the cloud percentage, the rain percentage, and the KP index. At the bottom of the screen, we have the map where the manager drew all the possible risks and flight zones, and on the right side, we have the option to log or fly or flights. At the top, we can see that we have a couple of tabs we can go through. In the tab Map, we can see all the zones the planner of this mission drew, and if you want to, we can use the drawing tools to add more zones. You can use a target icon to zoom in on the zone on the map. If you click on the zone, the detail pop-up of this zone pops up. If you want to, you can edit this information as well. After that, we get to the Files tab. Here you can upload images, files, and a couple more files. If you would want to upload the logs of your wingtrap drone, for example, you could do this right here. You can just drag and drop it to the upload zone and you will now get some options. You can download the file again, so a pilot could upload an image and the manager could then download it again. You can delete a file. And for the wingtrap logs, you can view them on the map and create flight logs, but more on that in a different video. The next step is flights. Here you will see all your logged flights for this action. The Checklist tab gives you an overview of all the checklists that are linked to this action. You can add other checklists from the drop-down at the bottom, delete or edit checklists. Let's click Execute on the last checklist. If I check a couple of checkboxes and now go back, you can see that the status changed from to do to ongoing. If we now click on Execute again and we'll finish the checklist, we will see that when we go back, the status has changed to executed. The Risks tab gives an overview of all the risks that are indicated. You can view a risk that opens the risk details from the risk library. You can view the risk on the map or delete the risk. In the Commands tab, you can send messages between different accounts. This is how a pilot could communicate with a manager. You can add files to this as well. Now let's go back to the Execute tab. Everything should make sense now except for the flights part of the page. Let's discuss the first button, the Log button. When we click on the Log button, we can fill in the details of our flight. The date, the takeoff moment, the landing moment, You can set the takeoff and landing location by dragging these icons on the map, like I'm doing now. You'll see that the coordinates change when dragging the items. You could also just fill in the coordinates. You select which drone you flew, let's say the M600. I was the pilot, there were no observers, and we used our Blackmagic camera. In the extra information, we'll both say OK. And if we now click on Save, we will go to the Flights tab, where you can see that our flight has now been logged. If we now go back to the Execute tab, you can see that we can also select the Fly button. This is for when we use the IDRONECT trackers in the platform, but I'll make a whole other video on how trackers work in the platform. That was it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.